Give it just a minute here as people come on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We are back tonight for part 5 now of communications, meetings, and volunteerism. I know it says module 2, but we're on part 5. Next week will be part 6, and it will be the last of our series. Tonight, we're so happy to have you, and we have a fantastic presenter again tonight. We have Angela Johnson from the Smith Management Group, an associate company, and I want Angela to tell us a little bit about herself.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Kathy. So I am really excited to be here with you guys tonight. My name is Angela Johnson. I am the branch president of the Smith Management Group. I came here a year ago exactly to the Smith Management Group from Colorado, as I was with Associate in Colorado for several years. Started in the industry in 1995. So I have been doing this for a really long time. So I guess I have that little bit of crazy in me to still be doing it today in 2020. So my history, I've started as a receptionist in this industry, and I've worked my way all the way up to branch president. I've been on a board of directors and was part of the board at the CAI in Colorado. So I'm pretty excited to be here and learn more about Missouri and work with you guys tonight.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. For the audience, I am going to go ahead and mute myself and turn off my video, but at any time you guys can post questions down at the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll take questions at the end, okay?
All right, so this is a new presentation platform for me, so hopefully I don't go all over the place and you guys can follow me okay. I'm used to teaching this live. So we are doing the communications, meeting, and volunteerism, probably some of the hardest parts of your job, you know, finding volunteers and doing the meetings. So we're going to start out with a little question here, and it says, did you know 1 in 4 Americans volunteer? The volunteers are employed. 35 to 44-year-olds are most likely to volunteer, and those over 65 contribute the most hours. I'm sure that in my history of being a community manager, I can tell you that is definitely the case on all of those. That's how I've seen it. So what percentage of volunteers do you think became involved after being asked to volunteer by someone already in the organization? I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think about that. And we probably think it's like 10% because it's really hard to get volunteers, but it is 40%. So 40% of volunteers become involved after they've been asked. So we're going to start with lesson 1, communications. And we're going to learn to recognize the 4 factors for assessing board communication effectiveness. And so we see all these great people, and I'm guessing all of them, you can tell, have a very different presentation style, and I'm sure you can relate to that. So we have communication problems are dubbed the silent killer of organizational effectiveness. And I'm sure all of you have probably heard from your homeowners at some time or the other, they do not feel like you're communicating to them. They don't know anything. You're not telling us what's going on. Tell us more. Even if you do communicate a lot, it's probably never enough. So we're looking at the frequency, the openness, the tone, and the methods. They all matter. So the openness refers to a board communication strategy that encourages owners to share ideas, ask questions, and make suggestions. You know, you want to get your homeowners involved, you know, let them be part of the solution. So being open with your homeowners. It fosters collaboration, a mutual respect, and it helps leadership gain new insight. I know board members, you're involved with your community, you walk through the neighborhood, you probably have a good idea of what everybody wants, but there's a lot of people that don't always open up. So just getting your owners involved in the community and asking questions, committees, things like that really helps learn more about your community. Being an active listener. So listening is one of the most important skills leaders can have. Many of us are great speakers, but not very many are good listeners. How well do you listen? Do you believe you absorb on average 25% of what you hear? Between 25 and 50, 50 and 75, or about 90%. My husband is in the 25% range. So multiple research studies show we remember only 25 to 50% of what we hear. I think we can all remember that telephone game. A communication skill that builds understanding and rapport between the speaker and listener through a variety of techniques. Techniques include eliminating your distractions, observe body language, acknowledge what is being said by nodding or saying something like, I see, I understand. Repeat or summarize what you heard to confirm. Ask questions for more information or to clarify. You know, when somebody's talking to you, I'm sure as you walk to the mailbox, you get people all the time that want to stop and when they're frustrated, because that's when they want to talk the most. And these techniques are great to really let those people feel like they're being heard and not just talked to. Nobody likes to be talked to. They love to be heard. So we have different methods of communication. So the last 2 decades have revolutionized the way we connect with others. In the past, the primary mechanism was a newsletter, and many boards are still comfortable taking the traditional route. Many of you probably do a newsletter. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would say 2020 has been an all new experience for all of us in how we're communicating and doing things, since everything is pretty electronic right now. According to research, demographics are changing. So approximately 40% of the world population now has an internet connection. From 1999 to 2013, the number of internet users increased tenfold. I'd venture to say this slide will change because this year it's been the way of the world. So a lot of people do a blended approach, and we see that quite frequently. So you're integrating your technology with the convenience and communication and speed, and it decreases costs, but you're still doing the other newsletters and letters and stuff like that. But a lot are doing a little bit of both. Sending newsletters electronically and maybe once a year sending a written documentation. They'll use e-blasts, make sure we get our e-blasts out there, because 75% of your owners may be getting email instead of letters. You can mail to them instead of printed copies and just say, if you want a printed copy, let us know. The Community Association website is another great opportunity. Social media and automated text and calls. I'm going to tell you, I personally am not really fond of the social media aspect for community for the board of directors, because typically, as you know, social media can turn into more of it can get more personal. And so we want to keep the personal out of it, because it is a business. You're running a multi-million-dollar business, and we want to try to keep the personal aspect out of it. And that's why, for me, I prefer not to use social media when it comes to board of directors. But the automated texts and calls are a really great way, because if you have a homeowner that is not in with the technology but would like to hear those urgent things like, please remember your board meeting this week, or remember you have an annual meeting, some of those people can get those through using a call tree. It'll still call them and repeat that message to them, so they don't have to really get all the technology. So whatever communication method you choose, you want to be careful how you use them. So make sure your distribution of information reaches the entire population, even if this requires a duplication of effort. And that's kind of talking about where you're doing e-blasts. There's people that don't get email, and we want to make sure everybody's getting that information. So most programs will tell you which people are not getting it, and that should be either mailed to them or maybe even posted to their door. I had a community that used to have clips next to their garage, because that's where everybody went in and out. And so that's how they communicated. Every notice would be clipped to those people's doors, and they loved it that way. If one-on-one communication is more suitable, then pick up the phone or have a face-to-face conversation. We tell I tell my staff that all the time. If you had to send more than 2 emails, you probably should really pick up the phone and call, because things will tend to get taken out of context, and we just want to make sure that we're relaying the right message and not a negative message. So never discuss association business or make decisions with another board member via email. This could be construed as holding a secret meeting. Remember, email is never private. It can be forwarded without your knowledge. And it always can be called to court as well. So, we always want to be mindful of what you're communicating through email. And, this holds true for 2 board members standing at the post office box talking. Sometimes that can be taken out of context as well, as being held a secret meeting. So beware that website content reflects on the reputation of the community and has the potential to become public. So even though it's private to your homeowners, people can screenshot and do many things. So it's not really as private as we'd want it to be. Consider adopting a policy regarding what is acceptable and what gets priority for website content, as well as the newsletter content. Now, this will help the board when people don't understand why you aren't putting everything they want to see in there. Have a policy. Policies help define what the community does. And so when maybe board A leaves and you have a whole new board, that policy helps that new board know how you've managed the business so far. So the tone is a big deal. And we can see when I look at Phil and Dave, I'm not sure I'm probably going to approach Phil before Dave. So that tone has a power to build relationships, get things done through others. It delivers news, even bad news, without alienating others. So for every action, there is a reaction. So plan the tone of your communications to elicit the response you want. If you're giving off the unapproachable tone, you're going to, that's what we're going to get back. And I definitely have learned that throughout my years of management, and try not to sit there with my arms crossed, and very cautious of our tone when we're in board meetings and out in the public. So Mr. Kravitz is quick to blame others and blow things out of proportion. What's the best way to respond to him? So again, we have to plan our tone with Mr. Kravitz. And so he's quick to blame others. I'm probably going to listen to him really quickly. I'm not probably going to hurry to talk. I'm going to listen first. So top complaints residents have is not receiving the information in a timely manner or on a regular basis. Hearing from the board only about meeting notices or rules and violations. And that's really actually pretty common. We want to tell people when the meetings are, and I probably don't even see that as much in this state. In Colorado, it was a requirement that we had to post our meetings, but always being the bearer of business news isn't always giving you the response you want from your community. So getting out other blasts are very important. Establish a schedule and stick to it. Be consistent. Don't send something in the first of the year and then never post anything again until somebody says something. Share the urgent news that impacts the association members in a timely manner. With today's technology, there's so many things that can be e-blasted to keep. I'm kind of the opinion that I don't want to get the phone call. I want to be proactive and be sure that information is out there to all the community, so that really they don't have to call because they've already been told, hey, the trash didn't get picked up today, the driver missed our street, or whatever that might be. Using that communication helps deliver the message, and people feel like they know or in the know more often. So we're going to do a little knowledge check here. So leadership in the Hilltop Community Association decided to start the year off by conducting a survey. They found the #1 complaint residents had was lack of information. This was a surprise to the board. Which factors of effective communication could contribute to this complaint and should be assessed further? And you have probably already figured this one out. So we have openness, methods, tone, and frequency. So we have to be open, the methods that we deliver and the frequency that we deliver. Those are all very, very important parts of helping the complaint from the residents come back down. They just no lack of information. So again, you would send maybe newsletters, mailings, e-blasts, and do them more often. Like I said, not once a year, but monthly, weekly, when there's important things happening in your community. If there's projects going on, you're going to want to communicate probably weekly. I mean, I have one I communicate to all the time, and I still get emails because they want more. So it's when it's a sensitive topic, you want to communicate as much as you can. So Mike recently added a board workshop where a book about active listening was recommended. What types of skills could he gain in learning to listen actively? He could learn how to influence others, how to observe body language, how to paraphrase what he's heard to confirm understanding, how to negotiate, how to acknowledge the message has been received, and how to conduct an interview. So during this workshop of being an active listener, so if you're an active listener, while you're listening to somebody, of course, we're going to watch the body language. Somebody that's, because it's really hard for me doing this class online. This is for one instance. I am not able to see everybody to see, am I talking too fast? Am I talking clear enough? Can they hear me? So observing body language for me is huge. I can't negotiate through everything as well because I can't see it. How to paraphrase what he's heard to confirm an understanding. How to acknowledge the message has been received. So 5% of the households at River Chase Community Association do not own a computer and have no interest in learning how to use the internet. Excuse me. What implication does this have for the association in establishing a communication strategy? And 5% isn't that bad. So it should, I'm gonna take a drink of water here. So it should not build a website to avoid discriminating against the minority. It should make paper-based communications available, but should pursue the use of other communication methods that would appeal to the majority. It should pursue methods that would suit the majority and not let the minority dictate. I think that's a pretty easy one there with B. So we want to do both. We want to make sure that we are hitting the majority of the people, but we're also making sure that we are actively sending all of that communication to those that don't get it. And with today's technology, that's very easy to do. So I buzzed right through that part of volunteerism. Hopefully you guys are zooming right along with me. So we're going to go to a lesson 2.
You're doing great, Angela.
Okay, I'm hoping I'm not going too fast for you guys. Just shoot me a little text if I am. So during lesson 2, you're going to learn to recognize requirements and effective practices in preparing for meetings, conducting meetings, and holding elections. Something that you guys are doing a lot of right now with annual meeting season. And it looks a little different this year. So the Harmony Community Association has a new board of directors. Next week, they're hosting a town hall meeting about the upcoming renovation to the swimming pool clubhouse. Attendance at meetings has generally been low, so board members have made an extra effort to publicize the event well in advance. What else can they do to ensure a successful meeting that complies with all requirements and maximizes productivity? And I know this is from my experience so far this year at Smith Management. I do know that Missouri tends to have much higher quorum requirements for their annual meetings. I'm used to seeing 10 and 20%, and I've seen that you guys even have 50%. So I've seen it's a challenge to get quorum. And when it's a challenge to get quorum, there's all kinds of different things you can do. I mean, we've had giveaways and had food. Sometimes when you have food, people come. So it's been kind of hard. So the meeting requirements must comply with your governing documents. You know, it has to, with those federal law, state law, case law, and statutes. So requirements vary by state, but generally address the meeting notification, quorum, and minutes. Legislation addressing election meetings and voting. So let me see what, oh, I did not mean to do that. Hold on, gotta go back to my thing here. Go back, sorry about that. I'll figure out where I was here. All right, so we're gonna talk about minutes first. And I know that the secretary of the board here in Missouri, they all do their own minutes. So these are important things to know about minutes. So your minutes should include, they must include the type of the meeting, your association's name, the time, date, and location of the meeting, whether your quorum was established, the attendees, action taken on the minutes from the prior meeting, officer committee reports, unfinished and new business, adjournment time, and the recording secretary's signature. That varies also from state to state. We quit kind of signing things because they go on the internet, and with people stealing signatures, that was something that we kind of weren't sure about. So we've been asking our association attorneys if that's truly required. Minutes really are, all you're doing in your minutes are recording the actions. So all of that information during your officer committee reports and your unfinished and new business, it's really about capturing the actions taken and not all of the discussion, because sometimes there's a lot of it. And on your officer and committee reports, you can even ask those to be delivered to you in writing, you know, so you have a written report, and then they become part of the minutes. And so then there's less to type up in the minutes. So basically they're just gonna have these important items in it. And again, you really are just taking the actions. You want to capture all the votes, because those are important. If you have voted on something outside of a meeting and taken action outside of a meeting, be sure that you ratify that and document in your minutes so that it is captured in writing. They should not be verbatim recitation of the discussion. It's actions taken. They must be retained according to your state requirements. Your association attorney can help you with that information. So there's different types of meetings. So we have board meetings, annual membership meetings, your special meetings, and your town hall meetings. So let's talk about our board meetings. Only directors have voting privileges. Owners can attend, but not vote. And I know you call them, some of them are trustees and members here, so that's the same as directors. A quorum is necessary. Your governing documents will tell you what that is, and your minutes must be taken. The purpose is to set policy, review operations, listen to residents, resolve disputes, plan for the future, vote on business issues, and vote on business issues discussed in executive session. Closed to owners valid only for certain reason, and it's kind of going into what executive session is for. Your governing documents will give, in state law, will give you more information, but you do not take minutes in executive session, because the things you're talking about in executive session there's only a few things that you can discuss in it, and it's typically when you're talking to your attorney. And if you take minutes, you are allowing, minutes are something that the homeowners have a right to see, so then you're opening that up. It truly, you will come out of an executive session and make an action in the actual meeting so that you can document it in your meeting minutes. An example of that is going to be, you just discuss somebody's delinquency and whether you want to send them to the attorney and how that looks, and you guys talk about it for 20 minutes. You come out of your executive session and you make a vote to send street number blah, or however that looks, to the attorney so that you can document the action. So we have annual membership meetings, which I know you are all engaged with right now. We're doing lots of meetings right now. All owners are invited to attend and can vote. The meeting is led by the board. A quorum is necessary, and minutes must be taken. And when I go back one here real quick about, I wanted to mention one thing. When it says that all members can vote, again, you review your governing documents to make sure that how that works for you should maybe there be a member not in good standing. So the purpose is to comply with the governing documents and state statutes, report to the membership on actions taken during the current fiscal year, and present the forecast and budget for the coming year. Elect board and committee members, deliver reports, and build relationships. This year, we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings, but we can't conduct business in them. So we're doing a lot of mail-in ballots for the business part. And I know CAI has done a ton of classes on that also. So we have special meetings. And in a special meeting, all owners are invited to attend and can vote. The meeting is led by the board. A quorum is necessary. Minutes must be taken. And the examples of that are going to be, you're going to focus on a particular item of concern or interest, vote on a removal of a director, vote an amendment to the governing documents that can't wait until the annual meeting, or reach consensus or resolve an issue. Sometimes special assessments, things like that, all go through a special meeting process. And then you have your town hall meetings. So all owners are invited to attend. The meeting is led by the board. A quorum is necessary only if voting is conducted. A lot of people have town hall meetings when they want to talk about, let's say you're getting ready to resurface the entire community and you want to get some input from the homeowners. A lot of people will have town halls if they're talking about amending their governing documents and they want to get input from the homeowners. It's not really a vote, but you want to, that's how you engage your homeowners in the decisions you make, so that you tend to get a little more buy-in from them afterwards if you've included them in some of those discussions, not the decisions, just the discussions. Let them be part of the solution. You must take minutes. So examples is to give information, garner support for larger projects, clarify unpopular decisions to settle community unrest, and get feedback from residents. I believe there was a lot of meetings this year by Zoom when we talked about, do we open or close our pools this year? You know, that was probably one of the biggest meetings, town hall type meetings that we saw through our company. So parliamentary procedure, it is a system of rules for conducting meetings in an orderly fashion. And you definitely want to do that, or it's a free-for-all. So we follow Robert's Rule of Order, is the most common in the US. CAI offers a variety of publications on Robert's Rules. So you can get with Kathy if you would like to have more information on that. So when you're preparing for your meeting, and if you're preparing, these are the things that you want, or these are the things that you should work with your manager or management company to prepare for you in preparation for your meeting. So you're going to have an agenda. The president determines the agenda with input from the other board members and manager. Meetings should generally last no longer than 2 hours. You need to find an appropriate meeting place that you can sit 6 feet apart and wear a mask. Set an appropriate meeting time. And I know that a lot of boards hold meetings in the evening because it's convenient. But if a board wants to hold a meeting during business hours, it's okay to do that. We have a lot of boards that do that because they're able to. And if a homeowner wants to attend a meeting because they have something to talk about, and you're only meeting once a month or once a quarter, they'll make that effort to be at that meeting, even if it's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, you know, do what's convenient for the board members so that your board can all attend. So assemble and distribute a meeting packet for each director in advance. We'd like to see board members get their board packets, you know, at least 4 days in advance so that you can come prepared to the meeting. You invite experts as needed to assist. If you're talking about big projects or your landscaping, have your landscaper there to talk about it. Insist all speakers address the chair rather than the other speakers. Or a lot of times you'll see they'll address the membership if you have homeowners there and you want them to address the chair. Avoid endless discussion and call for a vote. So when things get carried away and it's going on and on, just call for the vote so that we can move on, and that'll help your meetings get through your 2 hours or even less. Especially if you're meeting monthly, your meeting should be a breeze to get through. So call for the vote. Request that reports be written rather than presented orally. I talked about that earlier. If you have a landscape committee, if they present that to your management company to add to the board packet, you're able to review that before the meeting, and it can become a part of the minutes so that everybody can read the same thing, and then you don't, just speeds up time at the meeting. And be committed to starting and ending on time. And I'm going to add to that, you know, when we go through getting a board packet to the board and it has all the information and details you need to make informed decisions, you know, just do that part for you, is to be prepared also, is read that packet, go through it, you know, make sure you're opening it when we send it rather than the day of the meeting, because it makes it hard if we have to stop and read through everything during that time. So the election guidelines, again, looks very different this year, but check your governing documents for how nominations can be made. Check with your attorney on whether online voting or voting by proxy is acceptable. Conduct the election early in the meeting so the outcome can be announced during the meeting. Consider appointing inspectors of elections to certify the process if needed. If you have a contested election, we always call for an ad hoc committee as we're there and have them count them. And we try to keep the manager and the board out of the counting of the procs or the ballots. So the Harmony board members need to hold an executive session to discuss an incident involving one of the employees at the clubhouse. What are the differences between a regular board meeting and an executive session? Select all that apply. And I know you guys already know the answers because you guys were listening earlier. So there's no minutes recorded and no owner can attend an executive session. Now, if it requires an owner to attend for, you know, for the purpose of what you're talking about, it doesn't mean that they can't. It's just they don't if that's not completely involving them. That's a board choice. So true or false? And I wish I could have little raising hands, but minutes are to be developed as a complete record of what is said or presented at each meeting for those who are not in attendance. Oops, where's my thing at? That's right. It's not an exact. It's just the actions taken so that people know what was decided. In the absence of the secretary at a board meeting, the remaining officers can skip the recording of the minutes. That is a false. The board must ensure that a quorum is present for calling any meeting to order. That is a true. Do one more knowledge check, and it says at a special meeting, membership is about to vote on the proposal to install a diving board. This is a popular motion and seems likely to pass. One member, however, is very much against it for the safety reasons. She has been making objections for more than 10 minutes. No one else has supported her argument. She's beginning to repeat herself, and attendees are getting restless. One member makes a motion to end the debate and call for a vote. Is this a valid move according to parliamentary procedure? Yes, it is. So Harmony is having its annual membership meeting. Which of the following should be included in the meeting minutes? Lots of stuff that do not go in the minutes there. So the things that go in the meeting minutes, the chair, the time it was called to order, the motion to approve the minutes, another motion to approve the maintenance committee recommendation, and the time the chair ended the meeting. Again, we're going to skip all the busy stuff. And I have a little question. It says, can the board set aside a certain amount of limited time for each member to voice their issues? So yes, you can. The way I do my agendas is I have an open, so it's called open forum at the beginning of a meeting. Usually I do it at the beginning so people have an opportunity to voice their issue and they don't have to stay for the whole meeting if they don't want to. And we do 3 minutes. I'm used to working with meeting policies so that it helps the board control how that looks, but allows people to be heard. And of course, giving them the limited time kind of controls us not having a 5-hour meeting because the first part took an hour. So yes, you can definitely do that. You just have to be prepared to control it because it definitely can get out of hand, especially on a heated subject. I would also say it's important to know that while a homeowner may come to a meeting to voice an issue, it's important for them to know up front that they can voice their issue, but the board's not particularly going to make a decision on the issue right then and there. You need time to review and get back to them and make a qualified decision. So we have lesson 3, volunteerism. We've talked a little bit about this earlier. You're going to learn to describe 3 ways to build volunteerism and give examples of each. They're all looking the wrong way. So it is the heartbeat of the association. You as board members are definitely the heartbeat of the association. So what's in it for people? What are some of the reasons people volunteer? What's the reason you're volunteering? So what motivates one person might have little impact on another. Strong arm tactics rarely work in recruiting volunteers, and here's what does work. Again, you're back to your communication. We need to communicate the need, educating, and promoting the community spirit, building volunteerism. A lot of people don't get on a board because they see how much, it is a lot of work. It's not a walk in the park. It's busy. You're running a very large budget and spending other people's money and hoping you're making the right decisions. And so it can be very stressful, even though it is a volunteer unpaid position. And so people see that sometimes and don't want to do it. But promoting a community spirit, even though times are tough and frustrating, that community spirit really helps people want to be part of the solution. So communicating the need repeatedly through a variety of channels, follow up with personal invitations. So people to target are those with that might be a good match, have been vocal about how things are done, are new to the community. The time when, if they're vocal about how things are done, sometimes you will end up with somebody with a personal agenda and they come in and want to do that thing and then they're done. So again, you want to make sure that's a good match and that they really want to be part of the solution because they're frustrated and, start a committee. Committees are a really good way to get people involved with the community without full commitment of being on the board, and they can work towards that board member. New homeowners too, again, are another way to get engagement. I think that's a great way. So we're talking about educating. Building skills and confidence can be addressed through various education efforts. You have local seminars, newsletter articles, online testimonials, invitations to sit on a committee. That's my way to do that. Recommended publications, online training and webinars. CAI has a wealth of information out there. If people are interested in being on the board, that's a great resource to send them to. And again, doing something like you guys are doing tonight, the board education seminar is a great way for new board members. I believe they should all take this class because I think it's so much information and it's very eye-opening. So promoting your community spirit, create a neighborhood assistance program, sponsor a safety seminar, print association t-shirts and offer them as volunteer reward for sale. Sometimes we don't want to tell people that we're on the board, so we don't want to wear a shirt. You want to host a blood drive, a poolside movie night or musical jam session, plan a progressive dinner, and host a talent show, hold clothing drive, stage a block party. Done a lot of block parties. I think those are great. The safety seminars are wonderful. You can get your local police department to come and present at that for you. Poolside movies, I've had a few of those where we do pizza and pool, sometimes do the movie. A lot of our boards do like band night in the park, where they'll do movie night in the park. So there's a lot of ways to build people up and get them out in the community to meet each other and become involved. And don't give up. I know that some of you have been on the board for a long time, over and over, and you do it because nobody else will do it, so you just keep doing it. And I know, but don't give up and keep asking people to get involved. Listen, using your listening skills, and maybe somebody's wanting to and are saying the things and we're missing what they're saying. So your manager can help you come up with ways also. So here's a little knowledge check. Oak Hill has 2 committee vacancies. It must be filled. Board members posted a call for volunteers in the newsletter. What else might be helpful? And we've talked about a lot of these ideas. You know, send a mass email stating the dire consequences to the association if no one volunteers, make phone calls to select individuals, approach new residents, write follow-up articles including a full description of the role and responsibilities of the committee members, and positive testimonies from existing volunteers. Plan a thank you breakfast for volunteers and those interested in volunteering. Had a very large community of over 1,000 that had a volunteer dinner every year in November to thank their volunteers, because they had tons of committees, and they budgeted for that, and it really went far. So like I said, they had several committees, and I just, hearing even a thank you is great, but just showing your appreciation keeps people engaged. So make the calls to select individuals, approach new residents. Both of those are wonderful ideas. So we recognize four factors for assessing your communication effectiveness as a leader. Recognize requirements and effective practices in preparing for meetings, conducting meetings, and holding elections. And we described 3 ways to build volunteerism, and we gave examples of that. Oh my goodness, that was really fast. I must have talked really fast, huh, Kathy?
No, you're fine. You're fine. Do we have any questions, anybody? I'll give it a minute and see if we got any.
Okay.
You did a great job. I told Angela before we started, this is like literally my favorite section of this whole course, is this one. So I always love this one best, because communication is so important. And like she said, we're all doing something different this year because everything's changed. So last year we would have never have done this through a Zoom, but we're doing things differently. So I guess we don't have any more questions.
How often should you, I see one.
Okay, good.
Yep, just got one. How often should you publish a newsletter? So I don't think there's a magic answer to that. I think that every association has a different need. A large community, you may need to do a monthly. It's pretty often to see them done quarterly. That's a pretty normal amount of time, is they'll do them quarterly. If you're e-blasting and doing it that way, I would do it monthly because I think there's information that can be shared with your community all the time. And I don't think you can over communicate.
I agree. Good answer. Oh, okay.
What suggestions? So the newsletters can have various things. I'm used to seeing a president's corner. So the president can kind of give their report of what they've done last month and kind of just a breakdown of what's coming. If you have things that we put in there are depending on the association, but if it's a single family and we're getting ready to go into growing season, I always remind people that they need to, care for their yards, keep their weeds pulled, just reminders that we really don't want to go send violation letters, but hey, keep your fence stained and stuff like that. Put your trash can away after trash day, stuff like that. You don't want your newsletter to be full of a bunch of negatives. So you don't want it all to be, hey, don't violate your violations. Don't do this, don't do that. You want it to have happy stuff, good stuff. Maybe engage somebody that always has a good recipe and let her put a recipe in there every time. It really can be a collaboration of things. CAI has a ton of newsletter articles that you can use as well. So that's another great resource. And of course, your management company probably has some information as well. So information would include also maybe putting your board members' names and email addresses so people knew who to contact for what. And some things you'll put in every time, and then some things you're going to change every time.
Great. Yeah, I was just going to add to Angela's point. We do CI does have copyright-free articles that you can customize to your association. We have a whole huge database of them, lots of articles to use if you're a member. So if you want to find out more about that, you can certainly call me anytime, and I'd be happy to talk to you about membership with CEI. Any other? Yeah, and any other questions? Those were good ones.
One more, let's see. My question is, it's in the chat box. I'm not seeing the chat box. I wonder why. Our committee members do not want to have their emails or phone numbers listed in the newsletter. What do you suggest? I don't think that that's a bad thing, or maybe the thing to do, which is my suggestion for all board members in general, is to actually have an email that is designated for just board business. I always tell board members that having your personal email is kind of making things messy. So maybe have committee members make a committee email address so that they don't feel like they're giving out their personal information, and that way they can be involved, or they don't have to. I mean, committee members are hard to get as it is, so make it easier for them to get involved. Like I said, make an email address.
That's a great suggestion, because that keeps it away from your personal things, and then that it's all your association. If you set up a separate email for that, that's perfect.
I saw this too. People don't use it because they are much older and don't use email. But was there more to that question, or?
No, I don't see anything in the chat. I just looked. I don't see anything on there. So I'm hoping that's the only thing she had to say. They're much older and don't use email. Yeah, that makes it hard when they don't use email. But
it does make it hard. Can you get rid of board members that do not work, only cause problems? So of course I'll have you ask your attorney about that, because your governing documents talk about how you would remove somebody from the board. For instance, if somebody was appointed by the board, there's a little more leeway to how they're removed. But if they're voted on by the membership, typically they have to be voted off by the membership. But your attorney can probably give you more straight answer on that.
That's a question you can ask Todd Billy next week too. Right. He'll be here next week.
So how do you encourage owners to provide their email addresses? One of the things we do is every time we're on a phone call, we have their information up in our system. If we don't see an email address, we ask for it. The other way, it is a hard thing to do. When we have an annual meeting, we try to have a sign-in sheet there and make sure everybody checks their information. So we try to gather them at annual meetings or other meetings that we have. If it's something we really need to get, we get a postcard out there for everybody and say, please send this information in. It's really important that we have this information, especially in a condo type situation where you may have somebody above you or below you. And we need to be able to get hold of people. And so not having any information can be very challenging. So we encourage them through telling them the good reasons why we need their email address so we can communicate with you and make sure you're getting information.
That's
Saves
good.
the association money. It keeps costs down. That's another good thing to tell them. You know, we're trying to keep your assessments down. So if we have all of your email addresses, we don't have to use mail and print paper that costs us more.
That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah.
Use that.
Great. Do we have any others? I don't see any. Give it one more minute and see. Angela, you did a great job. Thank you so much for being here, especially during budget season. I know it's crazy for all of our community managers right now, but we appreciate you. Yes. For those, so next week's the last week, guys. Next week, the 22nd, 6 p.m., we have governing documents and roles and responsibilities with Mr. Todd Billy. So if you have attorney questions, that would be the time to ask. I won't tell Todd I said that though. So I guess with no more questions, we're going to end for tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Angela, thanks again for your time. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.